Right, here we are in CSC Champagne Bar. This is the Innovation Ramble, a weekly podcast by me and him, where we investigate the world of innovation, one subject at a time. Last week we had addiction.
Yeah, it was a cracker.
It was.
And we've seen from downloads, people are getting a bit addicted to podcasts.
Oh, they are.
Leafing back through the back catalogue.
Number one in New and Noteworthy again, 2 weeks running. Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you for all the reviews. Thanks. Anyone who's left us a 5-star review or a written review on iTunes, thank you so much. That's made a massive difference.
It's awesome.
Being the number one in the business section, you can't complain with that. Brilliant.
Very happy.
But this week we are going to be talking about the innovation of sleep.
We are indeed. We're going to talk a little bit about sleep culture, sleep history, some innovations.
Deprivation.
Waking,
science,
dreaming, jet lag.
Neuroscience.
Yeah.
But sleep has had obviously probably the biggest effect on society of anything we've talked about. But to tell a little story, in January in '86 at the Kennedy Space Center, a space shuttle called Challenger took off. 7 crew members and the first member of the public, a teacher, on board. A successful launch, but only for a few seconds when it exploded just above takeoff, killing all 7 people. And when NASA looked into this, the reason for the explosion was down to a few key managers of the project coming into work after having 2 hours sleep.
And you can imagine the pressure they're under to hit deadlines, and people, choosing to stay up late in order to get that work done. That when that happened in the mid '80s, it was probably right at the peak of when Gen X is powering through. It was not having any sleep was a badge of honor.
Yeah.
You had people staying up. Wall Street happened. New York is known as the city that never sleeps. There was a bit of a focus, a movement at the time about not sleeping. People like Maggie Thatcher, famously sleeping on 4 hours a night. 1% of the population is able to do that. But that's because we'd kind of forced ourselves into this routine of sleeping for 8 hours in order to get our jobs done. It didn't used to be like that back before the 17th century. Actually, we slept for 14 hours in darkness and had a couple of hours break in the middle when actually people would meditate on what their dreams had been. Fast forward to us inventing street lighting and candles, and actually we were able to then stay awake at night, whereas previously a bit uncool. Now it became cool to stay awake, so we started staying up longer, burning the midnight oil, getting creativity, and that's kind of forced this culture of staying up late in order to work hard, and tragic things happening as a result.
But I love this idea of the double sleep. And the first sleep was, this is 17th century started to die out, but the first sleep was called the heavy sleep or the deep sleep. And then, you go and visit neighbours or, get together with your partner or read. I just love that idea.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It seems so strange, the idea of going to bed at 8.
Yeah.
Waking up at 12, having a bit of food and a read, and then having a sleep.
And doctors suggesting that in that gap is when it was the best time to conceive. A little bit more energy after your first sleep.
Good knowledge.
Good knowledge.
And some African cultures still have that. So it's not something that's completely died out, but interesting. But if you look at some of the effects of having bad sleep in the US, well, this is ridiculous, right? 250,000 drivers fall asleep at the wheel every day in the States, causing 100,000 accidents, which is just you talk about, some of the you talk about terrorism, for example, and how scary that is, but you got 250,000 people falling asleep at the wheel, which is the more dangerous. But napping, that can help you out.
It can too, yeah. So rather than go on a long drive, feeling exhausted, we kind of know instinctively 15 minutes for some people helps kind of boost that, and having a nap is an important part of culture. I think partly because we forced ourselves into that 8-hour sleep bracket, actually we're more tired during the day, so we kind of feel the need to nap, and there isn't a huge amount of napping culture in the UK, but I know that isn't the case elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, in Japan, and for our 3 Japanese listeners who dial in every week, I may have this slightly wrong, having not experienced it myself, but basically sleep is a much more publicly acceptable thing in Japanese culture. So you're allowed to sleep in meetings as long as the way that you sleep fits in with the environment you're in. So if you fall asleep in a chair, that's fine. If you fall asleep under the table, then that's not cool at all.
Yeah.
Sleeping at the desk is fine as long as you're in the chair and at your computer. And when some Japanese businesses go away, then actually they all sleep together. And sleep's kind of a private thing for us in the UK, isn't it?
It is. I love that idea about them, kind of sleeping together in the same room. It's like a shared activity.
Sleep, if you went away with your office, you'd all sleep in the same room.
I think
you
it'd
really
be great.
like that idea.
It'd make everybody slightly uncomfortable, and sometimes you get a bit of you get creativity at the fringe there. So there's a product called Napwell that you could use if you're looking to nap regularly. It wakes you up without any grogginess, using an interior LED lighting system that kind of gradually delivers a sunrise. There's quite a few products like this, and they should be able to allow us to nap a little bit more efficiently in the office.
So I was at Google the other day, and they have sleep pods.
Sleep pods, yeah.
They look ridiculous, right? They're a big
Fantastic.
egg, like this shape, but they're on like a plinth,
Yeah.
and the person's legs just stick out. And I assume there's just like a noise cancelling stuff and all that kind of business.
Yeah.
But they allow that, and I think what's the investment of that pod? It must be like a couple of grand or something.
The challenge is probably the culture. How awkward you feel. First time you go and use it, and I think great that maybe we can learn something from Japan in terms of allowing people.
We need an Innovation Ramble sleep pod just in the corner when you're not doing your bit.
It's the room, isn't it?
It is, yes, in fairness. But one person's kind of sleep pod and creativity is another person's torture. So the CIA was authorised to keep prisoners awake for up to 180 hours, which is about a week. But in the report they said, no, it's fine, we never did that. We only kept them awake for 96 hours.
Yeah, well, that's
which
okay then, isn't it?
It's only 3 days, isn't it?
It's like a stag do, awake for 3 days.
Indeed. But the effects of bad sleep are pretty bad. I didn't realise this. So adults who sleep regularly for less than 6 hours have 4 times the risk of heart disease or a stroke. In rats, long-term sleep deprivation, they start to measure the osteoporosis and the effect that has on the rat's bones. Swansea University say that if you work a 10-year night shift, then your brain will age the equivalent of 16 years. So it's actually really bad for your brain. The Danish government, they compensate night shift workers who develop breast cancer. And the foundation of this is Professor Russell Foster from Oxford Uni, we'll talk about later, basically said that the findings across different studies show that your brain never gets used to changes in sleep patterns. So if you're working a night shift, you're much more likely to get type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, and 1.5 times more likely to get heart disease than people who work in the day. So you have the circadian clock or the body clock that around 10 o'clock want to shut your body down, and about 6 o'clock wants to wake you up, and you never can get your body or your brain used to it.
Yeah. And if you wanted to push against that, as a lot of people who work in the creative industry do, and they're staying up late, there is a little kind of a whiff of creativity and danger associated with trying to stay up late, break those rhythms, but ultimately it's impossible to get into that on a regular basis.
Well, when from the industry that we're in for pitching, there's always that kind of, I'll stay up till 3 a.m. the night before the pitch, I'll be the late night soldier, and they're always the ones that are rubbish. Whereas if you go to bed, have a good night's sleep, you arrive, and I think that you can tell when someone's rested and they're ready, and they kind of that creative spark is flying around. You
can, and so if you need that creative spark, things that it's noisy at home, noisy in the office, you could use the Hush earplugs. Which are kind of noise cancelling and noise augmenting earplugs that you put in. Say it's noisy and you're in the room, you're out with all your work colleagues, you're all sleeping en masse in a huge room together, and there's some chit chat going on. You can use like Hush earplugs and start to pipe in music that will help you sleep, kind of whale music, sounds, and start to produce sounds that are countering the external noise, kind of noise cancelling that.
Nice. Well, Nintendo have released some patents or applied for some patents around what looks like a move into the smart home.
Okay. So
what it looks like they're going to build is a sleep monitor that tracks your body's movement and your breathing, and this is the cool thing, right? It wakes you up in the morning, and then projects onto the wall your sleep stats, your quantified. Which I think that's my problem with this whole industry, really, around hacking sleep, is that all of that stuff is going to come to you after the event. You're like, wow, you had 6 hours sleep last night. Oh, great. Well, it's not like you then emails your boss and said he's going to have a line, is it?
Well, we'll come on to how you might be able to track that during your sleep in a little bit of time. But yeah, another thing that can help you get off to sleep in order that you're going to have a good rest would be a new product called Sprayable Sleep. It's from a company called Sprayable. They previously launched a product called Sprayable Energy. Basically, you'd spray it onto your skin if you wanted to stay awake, and it basically delivers caffeine that then is picked up through osmosis and into your bloodstream. They've now countered that, or produced the antidote, which is Sprayable Sleep, which is melatonin. You spray it onto your skin an hour before you go to sleep, and that's going to apparently aid the longevity or the duration of your sleep.
Sprayable
and the
sleep. Could you just spray it on people melatonin in the office?
Yeah, maybe. They're like
like
dropping like flies.
Like
Somebody's talking too much in a meeting.
Oh my god, yeah. That would be. I think that's an innovation episode. The innovation of meetings and how to make them better. That would be, I think there's much need for that. Certainly in my office. But sprayable melatonin, Nintendo, hush earplugs. The reason people are doing that is because the sleep industry is an estimated 20 billions worth, which is just totally remarkable. People with pillows, apps, sleep centers, hypnotherapy, and sleeping tablets. But what really strikes me about all this, now I've researched it, is that our circadian clocks, body clocks, were formed when we were cave dwellers. So that when the sun came up, our bodies started to realise that was the most likely time that we're going to catch some food. And as when it goes dark, there's less opportunity. So there's over millions of years that we've developed this body clock. And as with a lot of previous episodes, relationships or fear or anything else that we've talked about, we have this kind of base human element that just technology really can't shift. But despite that, Russell Foster, I mentioned earlier, has been investigating with funding from the Wellcome Trust about this thing called the sleep switch. I'm going to get mega sciencey here. This is the ventral lateral preoptic nuclei, and that's what keeps the whole neurosystem awake. So what this research is doing is allowing us to potentially reset the body clock. So for people with insomnia or shift workers or people with jet lag, it's essentially a case of combining a phosphate with a certain protein in a process called, you ready for this? Phosphorylation. And it's triggered by light, because actually light is what triggers the hormones that will produce less melatonin that you mentioned earlier. So essentially it's kind of light therapy that they're working on to cure things like depression and autism, but obviously it's our mates the mice that are getting the...
It's always the mice and the poor rats. So they've had it easy since the end of the addiction episode.
I think we should do a spin-off podcast, which is just the story of lab rats. Poor things. We should get some in.
But both of our rodent listeners.
Maybe they're the ones in Japan, who knows. So what they did was that they created these mutant rats which prevented the phosphorylation process. So essentially the mice in the experiment didn't have that natural part of their brain telling them when it was night or day. It's like the light didn't affect their brains. So when the scientists moved the light cycle, so it went from a 12-hour light day to a 10-hour light day, those mice couldn't adapt. So that's where this science is going. That eventually, if all things go well, we might be able to shine light into a certain part of our brain, preventing a certain thing from happening that would allow us to just reset our brains when it didn't suit us. So maybe if you've been on one of your 3-day stag do's, or you just flying back from New York and you just feel a bit rubbish. But another really great innovation, actually, it's fascinating, is around trauma. So I think we both read this, that when you go to sleep, what your brain does is form stronger neural pathways for important stuff. Like you've got something that's going to help you survive, or something really important you have to remember, your brain will start to form those bonds that make it efficient to complete that task next time round. But also that works for trauma. So what they're trying to find when they're treating post-traumatic stress disorder, that if someone has a traumatic, stressful experience, if you put them to bed and make them sleep on it, they will form stronger connections with that traumatic event, and that will plague them for a lot longer. Whereas with 2 groups, a test and a sleep-deprived group, they showed them traumatic images, and the group that was sleep deprived didn't have the same recall and weren't affected in the same way. So if anything happens bad to someone, an innovative way of dealing with that is actually just keep them awake, which sounds really torturous.
It does sound painful, but we know from physiological studies that when we're in REM, rapid eye movement, that actually our metabolism and cardiovascular rate is comparable to us being awake. However, you see increased neurons firing in the brain that you don't see when you're awake, and that's making those connections. So by keeping somebody up, that's not those connections aren't being made, and they're not retaining that picture as long as they would do. And that's one of the reasons that that's one of the theories behind what happens when we dream. So there's increased activity in the brain as we're effectively shuffling the memories and the moments of the day into our kind of like into our bigger database. So those kind of short-term things that happen. That's why you end up having elements of dreams that reflect stuff that you've done during the day.
See, now I heard a different theory, and the theory was that what dreams are is the brain or the subconscious almost creating simulations. So in the same way you have a flight simulator or a driving simulator, dreams are a life simulator where our subconscious throws challenges at us. And the reason behind this theory is because a lot of dreams feature danger, or like I was in some compromising situation or whatever, and your brain is training you to actually deal with those situations, which ties in very nicely into deja vu. You know, oh, you had that feeling that I've been here before, and so maybe actually your brain is constantly preparing you for eventualities. But based on most people's dreams, I don't know, flying around Jupiter on an elephant might not be too much of an issue, but if it came to it, I might be ready.
Well, it's interesting you talk about dystopia, and a lot of the time we paint a picture of a very dystopian future, and often our dreams can be dystopian, and it's one of the areas where we're able to kind of frighten ourselves and set ourselves challenges, even though we're living in an increasingly safe world comparatively over the last 100 years. Deaths, disease, genocide on the whole is down. We live in a safer world, and so we're starting to crave our fears, as we heard on previous episodes, more than we've done previously. And dreams, an area where things can be very scary, and can be quite challenging for some individuals, which is why the advancements in lucid dreaming are really interesting.
Can you just explain what lucid dreaming is? Sorry, this is something I know much about. So
when we're awake, we're conscious, and the definition of consciousness is that we're awake and able to sense what's happening. When we dream, we are effectively, subconscious. So it's not something that while we're experiencing it, we're not in control. We're not aware in that situation. Lucid dreaming is our ability to take control of our dreams and actually make decisions. So to control the flow of where that dream's going. The number of movies that have been focused around centralising on lucid dreaming has increased in recent years. Inception was a big one with Leonardo DiCaprio.
And the big irony being that at 2 a.m. this morning you pulled up a graph.
Well, it's interesting to see that it's on the rise. So that's like Wikipedia references. So there are techniques that allow you to take control of your dreams. Apparently by writing down over the course of 7 days what happened in your dreams, you start to build a connection with it, and you can start to control, you start to have a handle effectively on what you're doing in your dreams, and then the possibilities become endless. So there are lots of new developments, new innovations out in the world of lucid dreaming. Lots of different sleep masks that you can wear.
Sleep mask?
Yeah, it's a mask that you put on. And what they do is it uses music and LED lighting in order to give you some cues in order to start to lucid dream. So the sounds and the pictures start to play out the kind of repeated rhythms, and will give you cues that you can use, things like tapping your fingers on the table in a certain way, that will start to trigger your lucid dreaming. So they'll basically teach you, these sleep masks, how to take control of your dreams, and then you can change them in different ways. This can be used for repairing people's psychological issues, for helping them deal with trauma, increase creativity, and my big passion, the thing that I'm most excited about in the world of tech is experiences, customer experiences, visceral experiences, and the concept of us being able to take control of that time, which effectively would be dead time, get more creative thoughts and creative stuff out of it. That really, really excites me.
And is there any way of connecting lucid dreaming to each other? Can this be connected in a smart way?
Yeah, so there's suggestions that we can have social lucid dreams. So if you and I were wearing the same headset and
on our company away day.
Yeah, on our away day, not in the room with everyone else. But it's going to work similar to an EEG where your brain is hooked up. So potentially we could be passing information between the two masks, the two headsets, and sharing in a social dream. So we're talking about like virtual lucidity, where we're both lucid, we're both awake, and we're both engaged in the same kind of virtual world of dreaming together. I
mean, do you think that a lucid dream could be opened up to advertising, for example? Can we plug in? Could Coke pay for our rent if we agree to plug into their lucid dreaming service?
I see no reason why you shouldn't get all kinds of different content in there. We're talking about potentially doing something interesting on the pod in virtual reality. How could you extrapolate that in the future? Maybe
the
augmented
lucid
reality.
Dreaming Innovation Ramble.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next episode will be pumped to you via your LED sound-infused sleep mask.
Yeah, there's loads of these.
We could get away with murder, couldn't we?
Masks like Neuron is one, ending ON. Another one is the Neuro Dreamer. There's quite a few of these out there that are starting to offer this service.
Do you have one?
I haven't got one yet, but I mean the idea of social lucid dreaming and being able to tap into that time. Imagine going for a power nap at work, slipping on your mask, looking to solve a particular problem, lucidly choosing the route, and you're not constrained then by what's happening in the office or any kind of baggage, completely free.
But how about waking up though? And we talked a lot about the innovation of sleep. There's different ways to wake ourselves up.
Yeah. I remember a few years back there was a bacon sarnie alarm clock. You set the timer, like a little bit of tea's made, the fan would whir, and at 5 to 8 you're woken gently by the sound of crisply frying bacon.
And what was that thing we were talking about on the really early episode around the light? Was it a light?
The Wakey light it looks about the size of a brick. Stick it on the wall above your bed. Use infrared sensors to pick out you or your partner, and then follow you throughout the night. And then when your alarm hit at the appropriate time, it would send kind of beams of sound down. So you'd be woken up, but your part wouldn't be. So quite technically complex for individual wake up times.
And not to be completely confused with the app Wakey, where what it does is you can wake up someone else in a different time zone and vice versa. So if you want to get up 7 in the morning, someone will call you from, I don't know, somewhere like however many hours ahead. And
this is the total stranger,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, the total stranger. You go, what? And some, I don't know, guy with a Chinese accent or something waking you up.
It's bad enough someone you love waking you up
but it's
in the middle of the night.
Really interesting because Matt Kempton, who does our logo, thanks Matt, as ever.
Mr. Kempton, thank you.
He's got it, and he keeps on getting emails from the founders saying, well, no one's really using it as an alarm clock, but they just use it to share advice. So their pivot for their app is totally something completely different, which I absolutely love.
It reminds me of Brutal Honesty. I think brutalhonesty.io is a service where you pay $10 and this guy will just give you his honest opinion because he doesn't know you. So it's like, should I stay with my girlfriend? Should I have another child? Should I quit my job? And he just $10, he'll give you brutal, honest advice.
So that's the end of the sleep episode. We've got 2 episodes in the pipeline that are just the most ridiculous, exciting things. One is a very technical thing. Another one is potential live event.
Yeah, that could be very exciting.
If you want to come and see the Ramble recorded live, big if there, give us a shout. Our email address is theinnovationramble@gmail.com.
Yeah, and
Al's been a bit tight. He hasn't bought us the posh one yet.
Not yet.
That may well change.
You can get in contact by going to the website at www.theinnovationramble.com
or follow us on at Innovramble.
That's
that
right.
is manned by the brilliant Christina Lau, who is our researcher, marketer and all-round legend. Give the girl a job. If you're looking to hire a really brilliant social media person who's dead digital savvy, let us know on the previously mentioned channels.
Just check out our tweets on the last few weeks. She's been owning
hilarious.
it.
The drum, our videos. Are they on video for sponsors? Anyway.
I guess so, video content.
Yeah.
The awesome Sam Scott.
Gordon, Dave, Sam, thanks so much. Recently promoted to head of video. Good on him.
Yeah, congratulations.
James Harrison for our photo shoot last week. We'll be releasing the Spring Summer Image catalogue. Thanks to Lucky Elephant for their awesome music from both of their brilliant albums.
And I've got a huge thanks this week to Snox, Paul Snoxall from Partners Andrews Aldridge. Paul's suggestion, Snox's suggestion that we go with Sleep, and it's been a cracking episode. Thanks Paul.
Yeah, really good one. So anyone else has any ideas for episodes? The innovation of meetings, I think that's gone in. Have you got a quote for us
about that one? I do actually. Talking about creativity and staying up late and quality creative output. I'm going to quote one of my favourite directors of all time, Sir Ridley Scott. We've talked about how important it is to be in line with the sun, get your circadian rhythms sorted, sleep well, because loads of problems come if you don't sleep. And for me, part of that is getting up early. And Ridley Scott said, somebody asked him, what is the secret of your success, Sir Ridley Scott? And he said, my mother told me to get up early, so I do.
That's nice. I'm going to go kind of counter to that. So as much as we've given you probably half an hour of kind of quite lefty, middle class waffle about innovation that no one needs and how we should follow our circadian rhythms and be Ayurvedic and get up at the sunrise. Lemmy, frontman and bassist from Motorhead, took so much speed he stayed up for 2 weeks. Right?
How is that even possible?
And my quote is from the song Ace of Spades. That's the way I like it, baby. I don't want to live forever. So yeah.
Bye.